What's up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Naya. So today's video is going to be about how to connect with your ancestors. Listen. This is like just the beginner stuff. So if you already have a little experience, maybe you can take something from this, I don't know. But if you don't know how to really connect with your ancestors, I'm just tell y'all, my experiences, some tips that I gained through my process, and how I started connecting with mine. And what I've learned as well, so y'all can avoid some of the mistakes and some of the hurdles and stuff. Of course, if you see me looking down, y'all can see the mic. Ignore it. Act like you don't see it, please. But if I'm looking down, of course, I'm looking at my nuts. Y'all love to hear? I love to hear. I'm about to do some mini twist though, but the twist out came out very, very, very cute, very sanguine. Shout out to Shannon Monty on TikTok. Anyway, let's hop right into the video. So the first thing I'm going to be discussing is why we connect with our ancestors, the importance of ancestral connection and ancestral veneration. Our ancestors really laid the groundwork for us. We would not be here without them today. So it's really important to remember the people who paved the way for you. They had to really endure a lot. We can talk about, we all know slavery, the Jim Crow era. They really lived through that so we could be here today. Okay, let's just digest that. But some of my ancestors were slaves, and I've had conversations with my grandmother and everything. And they were slaves. They saw some crazy things. And I feel like it'd be just a dishonor and a disservice to them to just forget them as you continue to live your life, live the life that they paved. You wouldn't be here without them. So have some fucking respect, okay? And connect with them. Always remember them. Make sure you are remembering their spirit, remembering their strength, because I ain't gonna lie, we so fucking privileged now. We are so privileged. We don't, I don't think we could really, a lot of us could really survive back then. We are so privileged, and it's very, very important for us to remember our ancestors, especially the ones who survived for us. We lived through them and they lived through us. I'm insert a little clip where I talked about, a dream that my ancestors sent to me about how it's important for me to, make sure that my nieces and nephews, my baby cousins, they remember their people. And it's from my Remembering Our Ancestors video. So go watch that. It can also give you some more insight to why we connect with our ancestors. It's a really powerful video. And I'm entering a clip right here. But the dream was basically saying how I was talking with my my little cousins and my nieces and nephews, and I was talking to them about our ancestors. And my ancestors had told me it's very important that I do that because we have to keep them alive. That's why I keep saying we live through them, they live through us. That's what my ancestors told me. So the younger generation knows that there are people who came before them. There are people who have went through the same things they went through. That they're not alone, that they are loved, and that they come from power, whether you like it or not. There's power in knowing where you come from. There's power in knowing your people. There's power in being bold in who you are in every sense, way, shape, and form. Through slavery, it's just, they tried to literally take our spirit, break our spirit, take everything that we knew from us. And through ancestral connection and veneration, you are able to to trace back your ancestry, to know where you come from. I have been putting together my ancestry for damn near 2 years now, and I just made some more progress recently. So it's very important to know where you come from. If I didn't take the initiative to do all of these things, I would have never known, where my people came from. We from the deep South. I'm a Southern belle at heart. My ancestors, they were from the South. A lot of ours were, but I don't think a lot of us know exactly where and exactly how our ancestors lived. And through conversation with my grandmother, through conversation with my dad and other family members, I'm able to understand how my ancestors operated back then, some of the experiences that they went through, and it makes me really appreciate them a lot more. Not that I didn't already, but it makes me understand them a lot more and appreciate their sacrifice for us, or for me, but for all of us. And just like I said, white people have done, girl, they're just thieves in every aspect. This whole world was created on the back of our ancestors, and it was taken from Native Americans. Like, and I feel like, especially in the Black community, they've done such a huge thing by, you know, replacing our real, you know, our core spiritual beliefs with Christianity. And there's nothing wrong with being Christian, because our ancestors found power in that. You know, they made their own traditions. But I feel like if you are, it's really important to know, why do you practice that? Why are you just continuing on the pattern? And are you really taking a step back to be like, okay, Christianity came from this? Like, the enslavers really forced it upon us to take away what we already knew, because we had power with our religion, with our spirituality. It wasn't really religion, but with our spirituality. Another reason why ancestral connection is very important is you are able to find out, you know, the talents that your ancestors had and the talents that have been passed down to you. So I know, like, for me, in one of my readings, I was able to get, girl, it was tea. It was like absolute tea. And I really can understand why, you know, I'm blessed with a lot of the gifts that I have, because it's ancestral. It's been passed down to me, and it's truly an honor. And it, like I said, all of these things make me understand my ancestors even more. Like, they're not just spirits, girl. They're not just spirits. They were actually people. And it makes me understand, like, they were young ones. They lived life. They had experience. And sometimes they didn't always get the chance to publish their talents, publish what they, you know, were working on, you know, showcase their gifts. And it's like, I'm being blessed with everything I need to, so I can showcase our ancestry, I guess you could say. So you are gonna get, like, you're gonna be able to understand, like, some of the gifts and talents that your ancestors had as well, and those talents that may be in you. And it's like, another reason is, like, you are able to identify, like, the generational curses that's in the family that your ancestors chose you to break, right? So for my family, money, everything around like our mindset and scarcity. Like I said in my previous videos, in my manifestation video, like, I grew up poor, my mom grew up poor, their parents grew up poor, it's like a whole cycle of that. So I really had to reprogram my mind. Like, I don't need to work as hard. You know, sometimes I can be in the energy of receiving. Another one would be mindset, like the mindset of, like, maybe self-limiting beliefs. Like, I can't do this if you know, I'm not good enough for that. You're able to, like, stand back and see, like, some of the curses that are in the family. If you just, like, really just observe and you just listen, they will reveal a lot to you. Once you are able to see it, then it's like, okay, you identified the problem, right? Now it's up to you to break it. That's why they chose you. So the whole point of ancestral connection and ancestral veneration is that they chose you to change the to change the lineage's future, right? Like, we want purpose in how we're living. So they chose you to live with purpose, so you can show other family members, or maybe inspire. But you living in your purpose is already changing the ancestry's future, because let's say me, they have, my nieces and nephews, my baby cousins, or even older family members. They can see me going after my goals, see me chasing my dreams, see me, never giving up. That may inspire them to take action. Or I think about it for my nieces and nephews and my baby cousins. Like, they can see somebody in the family who didn't, break, who didn't bend to the will of what this world really wants you to do, is just work a 9 to 5 endlessly and not really chase your passions, not really get to know yourself on a deeper level, things like that. So I feel like it's just, you don't just be connecting with your ancestors willy-nilly. Like, there's purpose in the connection, like. And another thing is, like, I think of, like I said, my nieces and nephews, and me just showing them, like, the path or the way to get acquainted with their purpose, because that's what the ancestors want. They want them to be able to live in their purpose, to be able to be confident, to be themselves, to never stray away from why they were brought down here. While you are doing the work in your day-to-day life, you are also ascending or elevating people. I feel like just making your ancestors proud more than anything. Like, you are changing the narrative, because some ancestors weren't, especially your enslaved ancestors, they weren't always able to live the life that they wanted to live. They literally just had to be. They had to keep going. They made the way for your black ass to be here right now. Show some appreciation. And really, you know, it's a different process when it comes to like elevating certain ancestors, but through your work and through what you're doing, you are already breaking generational curses and making them proud. So yeah, so once you really start connecting with them, the love that's there, like it's irreplaceable. You know, I got my, you know, good times, my bad times where I'm like, yo, what the fuck going on? I can't take this. It's too much. But like 95% of the time, 97% of the time, I'm Gucci. I understand, and it's like I understand why they do the things they do sometimes, and it's just like it's just real love around there. Like I'm connected with family members I didn't even think that I'd be able to connect with, family members I didn't even meet in this lifetime, and it makes me feel a lot more whole now. I feel like I know who I am through and through, and that came with like me learning about connecting with my ancestors, me learning, being intentional about tracing back the ancestry. Like I recently just found out, you know, on one side of my family, you know what, some of my family members from the 1800s, what their occupation was, you know, like just seeing that, being able to see that, like, you know, how they lived and, you know, who they were married to and how the census worked and everything. It was just a different time back then. It makes me feel more connected to their struggles. I feel like more thankful more than anything to the fact that they just, like I said, just lived for me, because I know it was hard back then, harder than we can ever imagine and are ever going to be able to imagine, to be honest with you. So it makes me more appreciative, and I feel like I know them on a deeper level, and I know why some of the curses that are in the line, I know like the reason why they're in the line. You know what I mean? Because you have to think about the systemic conditions and the economic conditions that were placed upon Black people as well. Like y'all, it's real, it's lit, it's real love there, and I really encourage y'all to really, you know, really connect and make sure you're doing it out of a pure place in your heart. You know, and another importance of the connection, it makes me feel like more connected to my Blackness, to my power. Like I remember one time for Black History Month, I don't even know if it was for Black History Month, I think it was, but you know, I started watching documentaries, started doing more research and everything, and it really opened my eyes to a lot. Like they were survivors, they were really survivors, and it makes me want to go even harder to show my appreciation and my gratitude, so they can be able to see through my eyes a life of true freedom, of true living. You know, they can live, you know, through me in a sense, because that's what they do. We live through them, they live through us. It's all in the DNA. But it makes me really want to really go hard and, you know, accomplish everything that I'm setting out to accomplish. And it makes me understand that this is much bigger than me. I'm not doing this just for myself. I'm doing this for the line. I'm doing this for my people, you know. It just makes me want to stop habits in this family and start new traditions. And your ancestors really help guide you throughout your life. They help guide you towards your purpose. They help, you know, block shit for you. Before you connect with anything else, you need to connect with your ancestors first, which leads me into my next like little important info bits, I guess. Yeah, so your ancestors are your first line of defense. Like I said, before you start working with any other deity, whatever, you need to make sure your ancestors are taken care of. They are more willing to protect you because they love you, girl, and they chose you. So that's the first thing. As you are getting started into your spiritual journey, you need to be, you know, asking them to come through for you. And when you are asking them, like for me, when I first started, I always made sure, you know, it's very important also to get your information from the right people. So use your discernment. I tell you, they will bless you with the gift of discernment. You just have to ask. But to start connecting with them, you know, make sure that you are saying, like, I only want my ancestors at my highest good and of my highest order to connect with me, and block everything else out. And now another tip that I just want to make sure that y'all know, you know, not every family member in your family that dies is an ancestor. To be an ancestor is of high regard. That means that they are learning their spiritual lessons on the other side and ascended to the level of being an ancestor. It's different, I don't know, but like ancestral work is very, it's tedious, I want to say, and it's a lot. It never stops. You are always learning. I'm always learning. I'm still learning, girl. And another thing is, not every ancestor wants to work with you, and that's okay. And, you know, if you want to elevate certain ancestors, that's your prerogative. I would say, like, go to somebody that you can really trust and ask questions about that whole process, because that's another whole thing in itself. But you can choose to elevate certain ancestors if, you know, if they struggled a lot and they, you know, it was just a lot on their plate in this lifetime, and you know they was a good person at heart or whatever, then you can choose to elevate their spirit, but that's a whole different tedious process. But I can tell y'all a little tea on it if you want me to know from what I learned, but then I'll point you in the direction of somebody else who can really shine some light on it. And doing research as well, finding books as well too. So y'all, if you like different angles throughout the process, it's because I had to keep starting and stopping, because I had shit to do, business to handle. Yeah. But anyway, for real. So when I first started connecting, I started with Ancestry.com. I really traced my lineage back, and you know, it's like I had an altar for familiar ancestors, but not all the ancestors who are working with you are going to be the ones you knew in this lifetime. I believe that at birth that, you know, I had, you know, a assigned ancestor who I didn't meet in this lifetime, and an assigned angel or spirit guide with me who are always going to be around me. But for real though, after I was like, okay, I need to really figure out, you know, my ancestral lineage, like, you know, just the ones, you know, besides the ones that I already knew in this lifetime. Like, I had to really go back, and as I was going back and actually tracing the ancestry back, more ancestors started to come forward for me. And I feel like with that, that's why I made that face. It's like kind of an ascension process. It really shows your dedication to connecting with them, because if they see that you are diligent in it, you are going to get a lot of answers. Like I said before, I started really, you know, digging into my ancestry. I had an altar with all of the familiar ancestors that I knew, but some of the familiar ancestors at that time, they didn't make their presence known, because one of my ancestors that I had on there, he had just recently passed, and I didn't know that you need time to let their spirit get acquainted with the other side, but now I know that. So just a tip, if one of your ancestors has died recently, you need to give their spirit at least 1 to 2 years to acquaint with the spiritual side and to learn any lessons that they may need to go through, because if you just put them on that ancestral altar, I feel like it kind of shocks them, you know what I mean? So I had to learn that the hard way. You need to give their spirit some time to get acquainted. And another ancestor who I was familiar with, who was actually living while I was alive, I had him on the altar, but you know, he passed before I could really get to know him, so I didn't really know him all that well, and I had put him on the altar without really taking the time to do my research on him in the physical. And doing my research on him in the physical meant having conversations with other family members about what he was like living, because like I said, not all family members who pass gets to be an ancestor. Some people were just trifling in this life, and their spirit gonna be trifling in the afterlife, right? So it's really important that you take the time to actually ask your family members what that ancestor was like, okay, before you put them on your altar. Because if you put an ancestor on your altar who don't like you, or who was a fucking asshole, they're gonna fuck your life up. So just keep that in mind. And to piggyback, to go back to the part where I was saying, like, you gotta wait at least 1 or 2 years. Maybe that ancestor, after you wait for a year, maybe that ancestor will come to you, or whenever they come to you, and be like, okay, I want to be on the altar, or they make their presence known. Or if you get a reading, they will make their presence known and be like, okay, I want to be on the altar now, you know, because their spirit has got time to, you know, get acquainted with that. So after I really started digging into my ancestry, I wanted to learn what, you know, my ancestors were like while they were living. So I was just asking questions, but I had to be real slick about it, girl, because, you know, at the time, you know, a couple of years ago, my family, it was just like a cultural shock to them what I was doing. Like I said in other videos, you know, me and my mom got really into it about my spiritual beliefs at one point, and I had to move out of her house because I set up an ancestral altar. But later on, you know, I just learned to shut the fuck up and ask questions in a way where they don't expect anything. So if you know you have family members who don't really support what you're doing, you have to be a little slick about it. So sometimes I would just be like, hey, so what was he like? What did they like to do? You know, how was growing up for you? You know, what were your parents like? Just shit like that. You gotta fine tune the questions a little bit so you don't set their antennas off. And another thing for research is I had, you know, got ancestral readings done. And like I said, as I became more diligent in tracing the lineage back and really showing my ancestors that I really wanted to, that I was true to this. I was true to it. I was sticking with it. Okay, I'm holding it down here. they started revealing themselves to me in ancestral readings. And like I said, it's all about it's kind of like an ascension phase, an initiation type of phase. So the more you get more acquainted with your spiritual practices, the more you're going to get blessed with more and more knowledge, with more and more ancestors. It's like a glow up, I guess, but spiritually. Isn't that cool? Yeah, so I got ancestral readings done, and more ancestors came through to me to let me know like who they were, how they would be helping me and assisting me at that point in my life. And it was pretty cool. It made me feel so loved. Like, I love my people. I love them down, and I don't play, and they don't play about me. So the next thing is communication. So before I did all of my research and everything, as I was really getting acquainted with, my spiritual journey and connecting with my guides and everything, I started just talking to them out loud, making sure I set the intention to invoke them, I guess. So I'll be like, ancestors, angels, guides, my head's good, do my prayers, in journaling, but I would just talk out loud to them because as I started researching more about, spirituality in a whole and what that can look like and, what's going to happen as you get more acquainted down your spiritual path, I remember seeing that your angels and your ancestors are always around you. Your guides are always around you. You've got deities, who reach out to work with you, who want to work with you. But yeah, so I just started talking out loud to my people. So whether that looked like me, after work, I'll be in the car, debrief about our day, talk about some of the things, even talk about just random shit, girl. So I would just talk out loud, play music for them that they liked when they were here. Like, I remember going to this family event, and then I got told about songs that one of my ancestors loved to hear. So sometimes I, just play that for them, just to make sure, just to let them, just groove and jam a little bit on the other side. Yeah, but a lot of things for me, it really just came out with just talking to them like they were literally in the actual 3D, because they just right here, you just can't see them yet if that's your forte, but they are all around you. So just talking out loud, sometimes it doesn't have to be like such a big grandiose type of conversation, blah, 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 blah. Sometimes it's just simple, good morning y'all, how y'all doing, I love y'all. I watched a video from Kim and Marie, and they was like, they just go by their ancestor altar sometimes and throw up a little deuce, like just to let them know that they, it's just acknowledgement. It's all about acknowledgement. They don't want to feel like they're being used, like you only come to them when you need some help. What type of shit is that? Like, what the fuck? Like, bitch, I ain't your puppet. I don't work for you, ho. And that's another thing. Like, your ancestors don't have to connect with you. They don't have to. Like, that's just more work for them. You feel me? But like, they want that. It just goes to show how deep their love runs for you. Like, they want to help you, but they don't have to help you. So make sure you keep that in mind as well. It's a mutual beneficial relationship. Another way I communicated was a lot through journaling. So I would just journal about my day, journal about whatever I was going through, journal about, the shit that I was picking up on. And my spiritual gift started to increase, notice about the shift that was going on within me. And through journaling, I feel like that's a way to connect with them, because sometimes they can come through and give you like insight through automatic writing or just downloads as you are journaling. Because as you're journaling, your mind is in a state of like, it's like relaxation, I guess. You're not like so caught up in everything else, and that's one of the ways that they can connect with you, because they're going to give you downloads through that journaling session, because you probably get aha moments, or you'd be like, it's like, you know what I mean? So that's another way that they can connect and that you can communicate as well. And another one is prayer. No, it's not ancestral worship. No, it's just asking for help. You have to open your mouth to ask for things from them, because otherwise, how else can they best help you if you don't ask for shit that you need to ask? And this is something that I've had to learn. I gotta open my mouth to ask for shit, and it gets done, it gets handled. So if you don't say nothing, then you just in a ball crying, when you can just open your mouth and ask for help. And it doesn't always have to be like physical material things. It can be things such as needing strength to get through what you're going through, needing hope, needing protection. You want a certain thing to play out a certain way. It can just be, you asking for a parking spot, child, just a closer parking spot to something. Ask for that and just watch how they move things around for you. That can also strengthen your connection with them as well. You have to be consistent in your communication. You have to be consistent with your own healing. You have to be consistent when you saying that you want to connect with them. If you are not consistent, if you wishy-washy and stuff, they are not going to present themselves to you. Like I said in my How I Connected with My Guys, it took a little minute for them to actually start making their presence known in my life because they wanted to see how committed I was to the journey. They wanted to see if I would just give up after a couple of weeks of them not saying nothing to me. You know, it's truly a blessing, to be honest with you. And if you wishy-washy and you not really showing them, you know, that the honor that, you know, I don't want to say like they gracing you with their presence, to be honest with you, they're gonna be looking at you like this, because that's how I would look at you. So being consistent may look like being consistent with your time that you say you're gonna give to them. So if you say you're gonna set out a certain time frame of the day, you know, every day to connect with them, or, you know, certain days out the week to connect and sit down and have a chit chat with them, that's cool. I know for me, one thing I, you know, make sure to do, you know, every morning I say good morning. If I miss something, I'll be like, damn, y'all, did I say good morning? Like, but I make sure I say good morning every single day. I end my prayers. I end my day with my nightly prayers, and, you know, just whatever I need to feel that's on my spirit, I say to them, and, you know, I ask them for things and that. But even if I don't ask things, I make sure that I stay consistent on my nightly prayers at the altar, and be consistent with your offerings. I ain't gonna lie, sometimes if you can't get food, they know that, but for offerings, it's not always food that they need. Food does help them, give them energy, and help them make shit move for you, yes, but they know your situation, they know your circumstances. So if you can't give food, give your time, give a song, sing to them, sing them their favorite songs, dance with them, or just simply just sit there and just be with them. They just want you, like, to just show them that you know, care for them, and that you love them, and that you appreciate them as well. So it really is all about consistency, because if you don't have consistency with them, then they're not going to be able to help you as much, because that just shows like kind of a disgrace for them, I guess you can say. So the next one is how they are going to reveal themselves. So they're going to reveal themselves angel numbers. I know for me, when I first started, I started seeing a lot of fucking angel numbers, and that came from my ancestors and my guides and angels. And as I got deeper into my journey, you know, I started getting revelations about different deities. But for ancestors, you know, they will reveal themselves through angel numbers, a lot of dream visitations. So dream visitations, if you see them in your dream, y'all just chopping it up, hanging it out, that's a visitation, you know, and it does take a lot of energy to conjure that up, which is why I say offerings are important, you know, because offerings do give them more power and more strength. And so they will contact you, they will reveal themselves to you through spiritual gifts. And another way that they can reveal themselves to you is through animals. So I recently just found out like red cardinals were your ancestors, you know, communicating with you. And I know for me, personally in my family, I have one family member who always says that whenever she thinks of somebody, she always sees a butterfly. So you just got to be like receptive to how they can reveal themselves to you. So yeah, animals. And like if you think of a certain ancestor, and every single time you think about them, that animal pops up, that is them. So if you want to learn more about your ancestors and who's around you, I would recommend to get an ancestral reading or a mediumship reading. But sometimes readings don't resonate until later. So also keep that in mind when you are getting readings. Sometimes the energy, it takes a little moment to shift. But I really do recommend, you know, just talking out loud, taking that form of communication before you get a reading, because once you like build that communication up with them and they start slowly revealing themselves to you, that reading is going to be a lot more powerful, I feel like. The next one that is like really, really important is understanding them. You really need to learn what your ancestors faced in this life, who they were as a person, because you are able to kind of draw on certain gifts from certain people, draw on their strengths. And when it comes to like, it's like you kind of able to pinpoint like the ancestral curses that are in the line, like I said earlier, and you're able to break it. Because once you learn what they faced, the conditions that they were in, the time period that they were in, it's just to understand, okay, I see the pattern. I see all this keeps getting passed down. You know, I see why, you know, it just hasn't been addressed type shit. And another thing about understanding them is you are able to identify their strengths and weaknesses, like I said. So in times when you need, let's say you had an ancestor who was really good with money, and you're not that good with money, you can ask them for help on how to manage your money, about financial literacy. Or let's say you had an ancestor who didn't take no shit in this lifetime. You can ask them for strength, for power, to give you some of that power, to bless you with that, you know. And with their weaknesses, like I said, you can just kind of pinpoint, you know, what ancestors to go to and what ancestors not to go to. Because if you ask an ancestor, let's say, who was bad at managing money, if you ask that ancestor for help, then maybe your finances is gonna be fucked. So you gotta really like kind of pinpoint like which ancestors you can speak to about certain things, because it's gonna really help you, you know. And to learn about their strengths and weaknesses, like I said, you just gotta ask your family members in the present who are living, but you gotta be slick about it if they don't really support what you're doing. So, you know, you can also ask your ancestors for help about how to form your words and how to form your questions too if you don't really know. So that's just a little tip. So another thing about understanding ancestors is that ancestors care about the family line. They want to make the family line, you know, great, and want to see everybody in their power and just change the dynamics that have been in the line for a lot of the times. And they chose you to be the one to break it, to break away from the norm, to break away from the pattern, so you can establish new patterns in the family and establish a better foundation for those coming up. And I'm not gonna lie, y'all, it get hard. It gets really hard. At one point, I truly thought I was cursed. I'm like, what the fuck? Why is all of this shit happening to me? Like, what the hell is going on in my life? Like, but then I got to read it, and she was like, yeah, girl, you're not cursed. You just breaking ancestral curses. I'm like, oh my God, I need a drink. Like, sometimes it make you want to pick up a cig. What's that New York picture when she just smoking in her bed? It just make you want to like do that, because it gets really, really hard. And sometimes you're going to want to throw in a towel. But as you know, get through those lessons and get through those blockages, you are able to see why they made certain things like that happen in your life. You know, because I know for me, once I go through the shit that I go through, I'm like, damn, y'all, that was truly a lesson that I needed for this next phase of my life. I'm able to see why they do certain things and align certain things up, because if I didn't go through those lessons, I wouldn't be who I am now. So it's not a curse. It's honestly truly a blessing. But they want to see you win. They want the best for you. So don't ever forget that. But if you are doing something that's not in alignment with your purpose, it's not going to move forward. They will make sure to cause a tower moment to get you back in alignment with what you're supposed to be doing on this earth. So just letting y'all know. So the next thing is that, you know, this is a mutual relationship. It has to be a 50-50 effort on both parts. So 50-50, you know, they do what they need to do in the spiritual, you do what you need to do in the physical. Because if you are not doing what you need to do in the physical, you are not going to align with where they want you to go. You're probably going to miss a blessing. You're probably going to fumble a blessing, fumble something that's going to keep you in the same pattern, keep you stuck. So it's really important that you are staying up on, you know, keeping in contact with them, with connection, making sure that you are doing your own personal healing, making sure that you are going after your goals and setting goals for yourself and not straying away from that process, making sure that you are learning from your lessons as well. So if you half-assing your healing, if you half-assing them, if you half-assing everything in your life, they're going to half-ass whatever they got for you, or they're not going to give you shit at all, because they know you're going to fumble it and you're not ready for it or prepared for it. You know, that's also why consistency is very, very important, because as you are remaining consistent in a way, you're building your spiritual strength, you're building your spiritual bond with them as well. So another thing is, like, if you get sad, girl, they know that. So if you take some time like away from them, they know that. And like I said, it's just really a lot of love there. It's a really, really strong, powerful bond. You know, once you really take the time to really connect with them, it's real love, y'all. I'm not gonna hold you. And even in those sad times, you can ask for strength to get, you know, it's really a beautiful connection. And I put like this next part under 50-50, because they are through you and you are through them. They see life through your eyes because you are planning it right now. Ancestors can also live in your feet, so make sure you stand up on pedicures. But yeah, they see life through your eyes, and you are here because of them. So even in that sense, it's a 50-50 connection. Like, you know what I mean? It's really a beautiful thing, y'all. It really is. I ain't gonna hold you. Connection is not going to happen overnight. Like I mentioned in my How I Connect with My Guides video, it took a little while for them to start connecting with me. And after they started, you know, showing their presence, girl, the confirmation was through the roof. I promise you, bro. It was through the roof. And I just had no choice but to be like, damn, this shit is real. This shit is real. Like, there is life after death. And everybody's ancestors are different. So the way mine communicate to me may not be the way that yours communicate to you. So you really have to keep your mind open to how they can communicate. So maybe it's through your different spiritual gifts, because I know some of my strongest spiritual gifts are not your strongest spiritual gifts. So your team may communicate with you through the sense of feeling, through the sense of knowing, or just some other things. I don't know your life, girl. I don't know your tea. So just keep an open mind. So once they make their presence known, don't be shocked and don't be scared, child. And I want to say another thing. Don't be so, for me, at least I can only speak from personal experience. I was really quick to put up an altar without doing the proper research and the proper education that I needed to when it came to more ancestors in my lineage who wanted to be on the altar, who just, were around me. But it took me, even then, it took me like a couple months to put up an altar. But, I always know I wanted to. But after a while, after y'all, make your introductions and everything, you get acquainted with them and y'all bonds start strengthening, they will require an altar. So keep that in mind. And you don't always have to set up an altar, if like an actual altar, if you can't. Sometimes, it's just impossible, because if you live in a certain environment that doesn't, believe in what you do and is kind of casting an eye towards you, you know what I mean? It's going to be a little harder to set up an altar, to be consistent with that altar. So when I was in college, I just used myself as the vessel. And that's another thing. You can use yourself as the vessel for an altar, because they understand they understand your circumstances. So eating food that they liked and saying, okay, this is for y'all, take the energy through me. After you eat that food, you're going to actually feel them, like take that, I don't say I take the energy from you, but absorb that food, because that's energy for them. You are the vessel. They live through you. Remember that. So when I was at college, I would just do that. Sometimes I didn't have the budget or the tools to make like a soul food type of dinner, so I would just cook what I can, and I'd be like, okay, y'all, ancestors in my highest good, in my highest order, this is for y'all, and I would eat that, and that gave them the power that they needed to. Or I remember a story that somebody told me about when she would drink liquor and everything, and they would stop that shit right on out of her system, because ancestors like liquor. So you are the vessel, so remember that. So always remember, if you can't set up an actual altar, you can just use yourself as the vessel, okay? But if you can't set up an altar, and after a certain amount of time, set up that damn altar, okay? Don't play. Don't be stingy. Don't be stingy. So yeah, that's pretty much it, y'all. But I just want to say, like, these are the basic things. This is what I did on my journey. I made some mistakes, but I learned from that. But this is how I really connected with my ancestors, how I started building things up. And also, Auntie don't know everything, okay? I'm still learning. I'm still learning. I'm always growing, You are never going to stop learning and growing in your journey. So don't ever get too high-headed to the point where you don't need other people, because you do. So these are the basics. And if you have questions for me, if I can answer them for you, I will. And if not, I can guide you to other people in my that I feel comfortable, pointing you to, I guess you can say. As always, if I forgot something, check the description box, because I do believe in whole ass paragraphs in there. If I forgot something in here, or I'm gonna put a little clip, I don't know, check the description box though. And I want to say another thing, I am just the guide, okay? I'm just here to drop a little information to help you all really get acquainted with your own spirit team. The true connection lies within you, so don't keep looking outside of yourself. The more you get connected to your own people, they will start revealing things to you that they need from you, that they want you to do. So make sure you are trusting that guidance that you are being given, because that's ancestral direction, okay? So it's okay to take information from other people, from trusted people, but the true connection lies within you. So don't ever forget that. We all are blessed with spiritual gifts. We all have powers, I guess you could say. So it's really about really tapping into them and really strengthening them and growing them, and also trusting them, because the more you trust, the more you get blessed with more information. You know what I mean. That's pretty much it. Like I said, check the description box if I forgot something, because more than likely I did, or something will come to me. All right, that's pretty much it, y'all. I hope this helped y'all. Happy connecting. Besos. Chucking up them deuces. Bye.